The war that changed humanity. Before the world broke, it believed it had learned its lesson. The scars of the First World War were still visible in every nation. Graves were still fresh, economies were still fragile, families were still rebuilding. And yet, beneath that fragile peace, something dangerous was growing again. A belief that power could reshape the world. A belief that fear could control nations. And slowly, that belief became reality. One country rose with a promise of strength, unity, and revenge. And the world watched, uncertain, divided, silent. Until silence was no longer an option. It began with a single invasion. Germany crossed into Poland. The skies erupted. Cities were bombed before armies even arrived. Tanks rolled forward with terrifying speed, crushing resistance before it could fully form. It was not a war of lines anymore. It was a war of speed. Of shock. Of total destruction. Within days, Poland was overwhelmed. And the world realized something terrifying. This was not a regional conflict. This was the beginning of something far larger. Soon, Britain and France declared war. But declarations meant nothing against the force already in motion. Because the war had already learned how to move faster than diplomacy. It had a name. Blitzkrieg. Lightning War. A strategy built not to fight battles, but to end them before they began. Country after country fell. Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and then France. A nation that once defined military power, collapsed in a matter of weeks. Paris, a city of light and culture, fell silent under occupation. And Europe changed overnight. Flags were replaced. Borders redrawn. Lives controlled. It felt like the world itself was being rewritten. And still, it was only the beginning. In the West, one nation refused to fall. Britain stood alone. Surrounded by sea, surrounded by enemies, waiting. Then the sky came alive. Wave after wave of aircraft crossed the English Channel. Bombs fell across cities. Fires lit the night like a burning horizon. This was not just war. It was endurance. The Battle of Britain became a fight not for land, but for survival itself. Radar stations watched the skies. Fighter planes rose again and again into smoke and fire. Pilots fought not for victory, but for time. And Britain held. Not because it was stronger, but because it refused to break. While Europe burned, the war expanded again. Germany turned east, toward the Soviet Union. It was the largest invasion in history. At first, it seemed unstoppable. Entire regions collapsed under the advance. Cities fell, armies retreated. But the land was too large, the resistance too deep, and the winter too unforgiving. As temperatures dropped, machines froze in place. Supply lines failed. Soldiers faced not only an enemy, but the environment itself. And the advance slowed. Then stopped. What was meant to be a quick victory turned into a grinding war of survival. And in that struggle, the cost of ambition became visible. But the world was about to change again. Far across the ocean, another force was watching. And on a quiet morning in the Pacific, everything changed. Without warning, the attack came. Aircraft filled the sky over Pearl Harbor. Battleships burned. Harbors collapsed into chaos. Lives changed in moments that felt unreal. And in a single day, the United States entered the war. A sleeping giant had awakened. and the balance of power shifted forever. Now the war was truly global. On the Eastern Front, one of the most brutal battles in history unfolded. Cities became ruins, streets became front lines, survival became the only goal. Entire armies were consumed in the struggle. And slowly, the momentum began to shift. Not suddenly, not cleanly, but unmistakably. At the same time, across the Pacific, naval power was reshaped in a matter of hours. Ships were lost, fleets broken, strategies rewritten. The illusion of unstoppable expansion began to fade. For the first time, the Axis powers were no longer advancing. They were holding. And then, retreating. But the war was far from over. It was becoming more desperate, more destructive, more total. In 1944, the largest amphibious invasion in history began. Thousands of ships crossed dangerous waters. Tens of thousands of soldiers prepared to land on fortified shores. The sea itself became a battlefield. When the doors opened, chaos followed. Gunfire, smoke, fear, courage. Men ran forward knowing many would not return. But the line was held. Step by step, land was reclaimed. And slowly, Europe began to turn. This was the beginning of the end for the occupying forces. Cities were liberated, armies pushed back, resistance movements rose. And the pressure closed in on the heart of the enemy. Germany. As the noose tightened, collapse became inevitable. From both sides, forces converged. Until finally, Berlin fell silent. The war in Europe ended. A regime that had reshaped the continent was gone. But peace had not yet arrived. Because in the Pacific, the final struggle continued. Island after island, battle after battle, each one harder than the last. Until a new kind of weapon entered history. In 1945, 2 cities were destroyed in moments that defied understanding. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Entire landscapes changed in seconds. And the world was forced to confront a new reality. Humanity now held the power to destroy itself completely. Shortly after, Japan surrendered. And the war ended. World War II was over. But its weight remained. 80 million lives lost. Entire cities erased. Borders redrawn. Generations changed forever. And the world that emerged was not the same one that entered the war. It was more cautious, more divided, more aware of its own capacity for destruction. Because World War II was not just a conflict between nations. It was a turning point in human history. A moment where humanity reached its darkest edge, and saw, clearly, what it was capable of becoming. And even today, its silence is not gone. It is only waiting.